Star Trek Discovery has just given us a really interesting science fiction concept.
An organic propulsion system.
It works by utilizing the quantum mechanics behind the mycelium spores of Prototaxitus stelloviatori fungus. How does that work? Firstly, what is a Prototaxitus stelloviatori? It's not a real species of fungus, but Prototaxitus refers to an extinct form of prehistoric fungus that could reach over 8 meters high, roughly 26 feet, and stelloviatori would seem to be a Latin form of star traveler. So Prototaxitus stelloviatori is an ancient form of fungus with an interstellar reproduction, or interstellar distribution at least. But Discovery has been pretty vague so far. Now, I'm not really too upset about Discovery being sparse on the details. After all, in the original series, we were never told how the warp drive actually worked. All we got was mentions of dilithium crystals and antimatter pods, scientific sounding words that were only ever explored in subsequent Star Trek iterations. But even so, this new spore-based propulsion just sounds more outlandish. Spores, really? I mean, you could say the same for crystals, honestly, but that's beside the point. Spore drive, as it's actually referred to on screen, appears to be an instantaneous form of transportation that relies on a particular kind of spore that can be found everywhere in the galaxy. It's these spores that Lieutenant Stamets believes are behind the origin of all life.
They are the progenitors of panspermia. They are the building blocks of energy across the universe.
These spores are everywhere, forming
The microscopic web that spans the entire cosmos.
Anywhere they are in the universe is a possible destination for the spore drive, though it looks like bigger jumps are more difficult and more dangerous. So the spores are everywhere in the galaxy, and the Discovery grows these spores on board. But how does that translate into teleporting between locations that are vastly separated from one another? Quantum entanglement. The most common way to illustrate this is the idea that a particle can be spinning in literally any direction, but once you measure it, it'll always spin along the axis of measurement, but the particle will still randomly have an up or down orientation relative to its given axis. The axis becomes known, and the orientation becomes a 50-50 choice between up and down. Each time you measure it, the results are random again. What happens is that two entangled particles will always have a perfectly complementary measurement, even when measured at the same time across vast distances. If you randomly get up on one particle, there's a 100% chance that the other particle is down. That 100% chance completely invalidates the idea that your odds were 50-50 to begin with, which implies that the particles kind of update one another's states instantly, with no regards for the speed of light. Unfortunately, even though the properties in entangled particles are always complementary, they're still always random, which means there's no way to send coherent information between entangled particles. But what if, and now we're getting into the fiction part of science fiction, the really fictional part, so bear with me, but what if there was some kind of entangled system that had a non-random property? Perhaps the web of Prototaxitus stelloviatori spores is made of quantum entanglements and has some predictable quality that can always be relied on in updating the quantum state of the other particles in the network. So somehow you can entangle the quantum state of your entire ship with a state of another point in the galaxy, and with the press of a button, the quantum states on opposite sides of the galaxy instantly update, and you and your ship appears at the new location in the blink of an eye. But stop, this doesn't happen, this duplication, because the very act of sending information like this disrupts the entanglement. So the original Discovery is destroyed when it appears on the other side, and you'll have to make a new entanglement in order to make another jump. And maybe that's what all these spore canisters are for, separate sets of spores and quantum entanglement with specific locations in the galaxy. And of course, if there's some kind of flaw in the system, and you imperfectly teleport the state and arrangement of entangled particles, you might rematerialize with things a little scrambled, exactly like we see in the episode. So basically, the spore drive works by linking to other parts of a giant spore network that stretches across the cosmos, and synchronizing the arrangements of particles on both sides of the link, while simultaneously disrupting the link in a way that kind of sounds an awful lot like the transporter system, but using natural quantum properties rather than a specific device that literally breaks down and reassembles particles with no outside influence. If I understood the science even remotely well, and predicted the direction that the writers are taking this technology, I think we actually have a pretty cool concept on our hands. But I could also be completely wrong, and the truth is actually better, or worse. What do you think? Did I miss something? Are there massive gaps in my understanding of these principles? Let me know, because this is cool stuff and I'd actually like to understand it properly. Thanks for stopping by, watching, liking, commenting, and sharing this video with your friends, and I'll see you next time.